In my 20s, I was very uptight, okay? Tight. Like Claudia's Bob, I was tucked and tight, okay? Dating is more fun in your 30s. Okay, now hear me out, hear me out, hear me out. My consciousness is now heightened. I have a greater sense of understanding that this human experience, this thing we call life, is limited and we're on borrowed time. And because I'm more conscious in who I am and what I'm here to do, it makes me want to know more about God, right? I took myself so seriously in my 20s to the point where I felt like it limited certain experiences that I maybe should have been a little bit more open to. I'm not willing to allow your opinion, your interpretation, or your experience of me to dictate how I maneuver because I'm more comfortable in my own skin. A lot of the times, what we are taught to value are not really things that are reflective of who we are at our core or what we even want. I stopped putting so much pressure on the experience to have to end a certain way, and I started enjoying it for exactly what it is. And that's making dating way more fun for me. This is for them 30-somethings that didn't turn out exactly how your mom and daddy wanted you to be. Did I hit my note? This one is for the millennial who is enjoying life right now, wherever they are. They know that they are exactly where they're supposed to be. Let's go beneath the seams. Life can be so complex. The human experience is far more expansive than what we can see, and we spend so much time just trying to figure it out. We put on makeup, nice clothing, and we go out into the world trying to hold it all together. When beneath those seams, we are being ripped apart. Some of the ripping is self-inflicted, some of it is because of the pressure of society, but all of it is limiting. Limiting in our quest to just simply be who we truly are. We're more complex than we give ourselves credit for. We fill our brains with popular sayings like, oh, it ain't that serious, loosen up, or just live a little. But life in itself is a deep, non-surface level experience, and sometimes it can be pretty serious. So often we force ourselves to only exist at the surface, never allowing ourselves to be fully exposed. We let the layers pile up until the pressure becomes too much to bear, and then we rip. Sometimes into shreds, and a lot of the times in silence. Beneath means to go below the surface, and seams are what are supposed to keep us joined together. Because we are taught, no matter what, you just have to keep yourself together. We create this image, never letting people in, never going beneath the seams. I don't know if we ever get the answers we expect from life, but I'm starting to find peace in the process of just figuring it out. Instead of forcing the complexities of this human experience to be hidden, let's peel back the layers and go beneath them. Beneath the Seams, a love letter to millennials who are just trying to figure it out. Beneath the Seams, the podcast, now available on all platforms. Hey y'all, and welcome back to another episode of Beneath the Seams. I am your host, Kayla Riggins. I'm your guide in these conversations where we get all up in each other's business. Y'all get all up in mine. I let y'all in. We talk about the things that people don't be wanting to talk about. This is the safe seat. This is the seen seat because we see each other. This is the space where we really have the tough conversations, the vulnerable conversations, and we really say those things out loud that people be thinking in their head and don't be wanting to say. I make you say it, okay? Because I'm saying it. I'm living my life, speaking my thoughts so that I can just be myself. That is the goal here. We want to be more of our authentic selves so that we can have more of a beautiful life experience. So if that's your vibe, you like those types of conversations, stick around. You, my people, we see each other. If anything I have ever said has resonated with you, you are my people. So thank you guys for being here. We growing, y'all. A little growing community. I'm so excited having conversations with y'all in the comments. And so thank you again for being here and journeying with me as we figure this thing called life out together. So in this space, we have gotten deep, we've gotten personal, we have really explored the depths of our soul, if I'm being honest. Every conversation has been a deep one, and honestly, that's a reflection of who I am in real life. I'm a rather deep person, and I don't mean deep in the poetic sense, as in, fight the power, my sister type deep, but I mean deep as in I enjoy intimacy, I enjoy quality time well spent, I enjoy deep conversation. And so this podcast is a reflection of that, a reflection of what I feel is lacking amongst our relationships as millennials and as people. But your girl is also lighter as well. Okay. I'm deep, but I'm also a good time. And so I was having this conversation with my friend Mickey, Michelle. She's one of the executive producers of the show. So we were in a producer meeting. And so y'all know my executive producers are my three friends who would not let me not bring Beneath the Seams back. The podcast started a few years ago as an IGTV series, about 4 years ago. And I just stopped doing it. I let life get in the way. I let things get in the way, and it haunted me. I could not stop thinking about it. And it's because I really feel like this is a part of my gift. This is a part of how I am supposed to express myself, and also a part of how I'm supposed to help other people. I really think we are designed to help other people during our time here on earth. And I think this is a vessel that I use to do so. And so being obedient to that, because I wasn't being obedient to that, right? It haunted me. And my three friends who never stopped bringing it up, they never let me forget about it. You guys hear me say their names from time to time. It is Isaiah, Bianca, and Mickey. And so I was on the phone with Mickey the other night, and I was like, all right, so as a producer, what you want me to talk about next? Like, let's produce the show. And she was like, I don't know. And I was like, everything has been so deep. I was like, these people need to know a bitch is fun. That's exactly the word I use. I said, I need to go sit in that seat and say, it's time we exciting it up around here. It's time we turn this mother effer up. And I said the actual word, and she said, don't say that. And I was like, why? These people need to know that I curse in real life. And so she was like, don't say it like that. So I thought that was a really fun way to kind of get into more of a fun side of these conversations, letting you guys into the different sides of the experiences. Like when we're not being deep, there's a lot of jovial, fun, bubbly, exciting things going on. And so I ain't say the words because my mama listen, my aunties listen, my older cousins listen, my little cousins listen. So I'm gonna keep it cute and don't be cussing all up and through the internet. And we know we want to have monetization and all of that, so we're not gonna cuss. But y'all get my point. I'm a vibe, okay? I am more than just deep, heartfelt conversation. Even though those things are important, I am also a ball of energy. And I'm a vibe. So today I wanted to switch the energy around and talk about some of the good things that are happening in life. And so I titled this conversation, Everything That I Am Loving About My 30s. Let's get into it. So in this conversation, we're going to compare a lot of what's happening in the 30s to what was happening in the 20s and what we thought was supposed to be happening in the 30s. And so one of the things that I'm loving about my 30s is really going after what you want to do. You know, they teach you that the 20s is where you figure out what you want to do, and the 30s is where you start doing it. And I think that is a lie from the pits of hell. I actually talked about that in a previous episode. It was titled, Everything They Told Us About the 30s Was a Lie. I think it's just the opposite. I think you spend your 20s doing what everybody told you to do, and then you spend your 30s finally figuring out and submitting to what you really want to do and having the courage to go after whatever that is. That's why people make serious career changes. I have line sisters and friends who are doctors and have quit practicing medicine. Hey girl, I know. You like, Kayla, what are you doing interrupting my episode? I know you had your snacks and you was all in it, but hear me out. After this episode is over, I don't want the conversation to end here. So I want to invite you. This is your exclusive invitation to be a part of my community because you are my people. And that's the name of my Patreon community, my people. So over there, you get access to exclusive content. We have monthly virtual dates where we connect and we have these real conversations. We keep the topics going. You get to have Q&A with me. You also get to meet and connect with each other. And pretty soon, Some events are going to be happening too. So if this is your type of content, if you like deep conversations, if you want to create meaningful connections that really just help us be more of ourselves and be better to each other so that we can really experience the beauty that is life, I want you over there a part of my people because we see each other, okay? So make sure you click that link, join my Patreon community, and I will see you over there. Listen, don't meet me there, beat me there, okay? All right, go ahead, pick your snack back up, get back to the episode. And decided to become chefs. I've had people completely decide not to go back to work and focus on their family and being a mom. And I think it's your 30s where you figure those things out and you stand in it, right? Everybody talking about standing on business. I think it's your 30s where you really have the courage to go after your heart's desires. And I am loving that right now. I spent so many years thinking that my success was tied to climbing the corporate ladder or, getting these grand opportunities based on being aligned with a certain project, a certain company, a certain person even. And now realizing that I'm the one who has everything that I need to make it happen. And I'm having a good time knowing that and owning that power. And so courage is what I'm enjoying in my 30s, really having the courage, even though it's painful, to go after what I really want and being unapologetic about that. It comes with a great deal of having to deal with adversity because, child, the way these bills be rolling around every 28 days like a doggone menstrual cycle, okay? There are a lot of sacrifices that have to be made when you choose to do what you truly want to do and not go the traditional route that may be easier. But I have the courage to deal with whatever that is. And so I'm proud of myself for that. And so I'm enjoying that experience in the 30s, which leads me to my next one, vulnerability. I'm a very vulnerable person. I think it is a part of my superpower. It's what I have to use when I come and sit in this seat. It has been one of the biggest compliments you all have given me down in the comments about the pod. And even in my personal life and in my real life, in one of my friend groups, she was just like, hey, is everybody okay? How's everybody doing? And I wrote back and I said, actually, I'm not okay. And I left a voice note just kind of explaining. And then another one of my friends was like, wow, you just saying, hey, I'm not okay. She was like, I would never be able to do that. Like, that's so vulnerable. And for me, I've kind of always been this way. It's heightened in my 30s because what they say is the older you get, the more you just don't care. I am really starting to feel that. Me and one of my friends, Isaiah, who's also an executive producer of the show, we used to talk about all the time, like, we hope we live long enough to understand what this life experience everybody used to talk about in college and fresh out of college, your mentors on some of your earlier jobs. Everybody would talk about, you'll see, just live. My mama said it all the time, you'll see, just live. And we used to be so annoyed. We would be like, ugh, what is this life experience everybody's talking about? We can't wait to see what they're talking about. And now, although I have a lot of more life to live, I definitely think that I'm just old enough to have just a little bit of life experience, a little bit of seasoning up and through that thing to really kind of understand what people meant. And I think one of the things that I agree with is the older you get, the less you give a UCK about what people have to say. And I think with me, with being vulnerable, I just feel like it's unnecessary to live with this stuff bottled up. I have a strong desire to die empty. And what I mean by that is I don't want to take any of this stuff with me. I want to leave it all here on earth. So you know how sometimes when athletes are prepping for games, they're like, leave it all on the floor. Or when cheerleaders are going to cheer competitions, it's like, leave it all on the floor, leave it all out there. That's how I view this human experience that I'm having. I don't want to keep things bottled up. I don't want to not try at doing things that I really want to do. I don't want to not experience joy and happiness and failure and mishaps. I want to be empty AF when they lay me to rest. And so because of that, I lead with vulnerability. I feel like the only way to really empty yourself out so that you're not keeping all of that trauma and all of the questions and the wonders inside of you is just to say it. And because that's the approach that I'm taking with life, I think it is easier for me to be vulnerable than most. I also have a really strong sense of self. I've been this way from an early age. Even though I am still very young, I'm one of those people who knew who I was at a very early age. And so I think because I have a strong sense of this is who I am, I'm able to be vulnerable because what people say or what people think or people's reaction to how I show up doesn't bother me as much as it used to in my 20s. Corporate America was a very hard experience for me, especially right out of college because of the way I showed up. It was not always met with, most times, it was not met with open arms. People were very abrasive. They were very rude, sometimes judgmental, and just very taken aback. You know, people would always give me that "who does she think she is" kind of energy. They talked about me dressing up too much going to work, wearing makeup going to work. Of course, in those white spaces, people would make comments about my hair and just, you know, being very taken aback about who I was in my presence. And there was a time where I would shrink. I started to really shrink and not open up immediately. I have one of those personality types where I'm loud just by walking in the room. I don't even got to open my mouth. I'm loud just the way I showed up, right? I have a very loud energy and presence, and people wouldn't like that. And so I would shrink. And now I wish I would. Okay. And so that's a big difference from the 20s to the 30s. It's like, I don't even think about it. There's not a question in my mind to not show up in the fullness of who I am because I'm committed to living a non-limitless life. Right. And so what that means is I'm committed to living a limitless life. And so what that means is I'm not willing to allow your opinion, your interpretation, or your experience of me to dictate how I maneuver because I'm more comfortable in my own skin. And so that's one thing. I ain't even think it could get better because, like I said, I've always been super confident. But now in the 30s, it's just a stronger sense of self where I don't really care what you got going on. Like immediately, if you are bothered by me just showing up, that's something you need to work out up in your spirit and your heart. Whereas before I would be like, oh my God, you know, well, what did I do? Or what did I say? Or I didn't mean it like that. And now I just be like, okay, well, you know, I guess that's something you got to work out with you and your therapist and your guide. I don't know. Leave me out of it. Okay. That's your life and your salvation. So when you talk about me understanding who I was at a very early age and then straying away from that to succumb to what the world expected me to be. And now in my 30s, finding my way right back there. I read this tweet on the internet, and she said, I truly think life is just about returning back to yourself. There will be so many times you'll get lost in the world and motions of life, and it's your mission to find your way back to yourself every time. And I think that resonated so much with how I'm feeling about loving the space that I'm in my 30s is because I been knew this is who I was. I been knew this is who I wanted to be. But you let the ways of the world and the traditional teachings of people who came before you infiltrate your original thoughts. And then you start to question everything and you start to make small changes along the way. And then one day you wake up and you don't even recognize yourself. And I think that's the journey that I'm in, is realizing this is my resurrection year. You guys have heard me talk about that a lot. And I'm just finding my way right back to that inner child, that inner being, that strong sense of self that I've already had. And so it's a cool experience. It's fun. I'm liking it. Okay. It's going, it's going, but I'm liking it. I'm enjoying it. Okay. So I can't even believe I'm about to say this one out loud because it's still one of the most challenging things that I think we'll ever have to do as human beings. But y'all, dating is more fun in your 30s. Okay, now hear me out. I think it's important to note that I am not the girl who has dated a whole lot anyway. It's not like I was on 3 and 5 dates a week like they was doing in Sex and the City and on Girlfriends in my 20s. That was not my experience. And so now in my 30s, I am dating more. And so maybe that's why it's more fun for me. I also think in my 20s, You are taught to race towards 30. Like everything in your life should be in a specific order by the time you're 30. You should have met your partner. You should be financially stable. You should be settled into your career, right? These are all of the things that we kind of race towards because of the traditionalism and the way we are taught to experience and obtain success. You are spending your 20s really dating to try to find the one. Well, hell, once you reach 30 and you realize, okay, well, girl, he still ain't here yet, it relieves the pressure of trying to do it by 30 because, baby, I'm 3 years cross 30 now. And so now there's not like a finish line that I'm racing towards anymore. We love to say that we are dating to marry. And I agree. I think in theory, that is a good principle. I think in practice, it is not always the easiest or more realistic approach to take. And so in my 20s, I was very uptight, okay? Tight. Like Claudia's Bob, I was tucked and tight, okay? That's an OG Real Housewives of Atlanta reference. If you know, you know. And so I was just very uptight. I took myself very seriously because I was following the path of what they told me success would look like. You go to college, you get yourself a good job with benefits and a 401k, and you stay there and you work that job. You meet you a nice gentleman and you vet him. You make sure that he crosses all of the boxes and checks off everything. And then y'all get married, y'all have kids, buy a house, right off into the sunset, right? And so when you're dating with that mindset in your 20s, every experience became so serious. Like I would cut you off for the smallest thing. Like for the smallest thing. I'm like, this ain't misaligned. This ain't husband material. No. Right. And it kind of sucks the fun out of it. When you are so busy being focused on vetting every candidate to potentially be your husband, it sucks the fun out of the experience of simply dating and getting to know people. And so what I'm enjoying in my 30s is, first of all, I'm dating more. We're going to leave that there for now. Okay. I'm dating a little bit more. And when I say dating, I don't mean like anything serious. I just mean like being on the apps, having conversations, going out, having a drink, meeting men, meeting up with people. That's what I mean. There's an influx of the opposite sex that I get to experience in my 30s way more than I did in my 20s. And I think it was because I was Claudia's Bob. Okay. And so I think what I love about dating in my 30s is that the experience is just what it is. Enjoying the experience for exactly what it is. Everybody is not going to be your forever. Everybody's not going to be your boyfriend. Hell, everybody might not even call you back. But that doesn't mean you can't enjoy that person or that experience for what it was. So maybe we went out, we had a couple of drinks, we weren't compatible, and that was it. I'm able to still enjoy meeting, getting to know, and having a couple of drinks with that person. That was an experience that I want to take with me in my book of life. I feel like so often we discount things when they don't look like the picture that we have painted in our heads. And so because he wasn't Mr. Right, because he didn't check all of our boxes, because he wasn't the one, then we discount that experience. And I feel like it's taken the fun out of it. And so now, even if you was just somebody who I had a couple of phone conversations with and it never actually ended up in a date, I enjoyed the experience of having that conversation, getting to know more about you, getting to know more about how the opposite sex thinks. Because, men are from Mars and women are from Venus. I don't know if that's how it go, but y'all know what I'm talking about. Men and women think totally, completely different, right? And so I always enjoy just understanding more of the essence of who men are and the energy of being around a man. And so I stopped putting so much pressure on the experience to have to end a certain way. And I started enjoying it for exactly what it is. And that's making dating way more fun for me. So let's stay on relationships for a second. One of the things that I'm enjoying about my 30s is the relationships that I get to let go. and the ones that I get to keep, nurture, build, and the newness of relationships. Particularly, of course, my relationship with God. My spirituality is heightened in my 30s. I feel like in your 20s, you are distracted by just trying to figure out, okay, what is this adulthood thing? What is even the world? How do you properly fill out your W-2 so the right amount of taxes are taken out? Like, it's all of these life skills and all of these things that go along with your 20s that kind of distract you a little bit from being spiritually grounded. That was my experience. It wasn't until I got a little bit older, particularly turned 30, where I was able to really go back to God and start to rediscover who I was and who I am in God's image. And y'all know that meme that's been floating around for a while now. It says, finally, I'm at the age where I understand why my mom and them and my aunties was going to church every Sunday and crying all the time. And I was like, oh my God, yes, like I get it. Like, we never understood why they were so emotional and why there was something to shout about or cry about or be in great gratitude about every single Sunday. And baby, now I get it. Okay. And so I'm really enjoying this thirst that I have. I have this craving for a spiritual relationship and connection with God. Whenever I get too far away from it, there's like this gut pull that's pulling me back. And I'm grateful for that. And I think it's because my consciousness is now heightened. I have a greater sense of understanding that this human experience, this thing we call life, is limited and we're on borrowed time. And because I'm more conscious in who I am and what I'm here to do, it makes me want to know more about God, right? It makes me want to make sure that God is connected to me in all that I do in this experience. And so that is a relationship that I'm really enjoying redefining and rediscovering in my 30s, because if I'm being honest, when I was in New York, I hadn't been to church or I hadn't owned a Bible since the one that they gave me when I was baptized. And I got baptized when I was 9 years old. I hadn't been to church. I went a little bit in New York, but I hadn't stepped foot in the church probably for at least a 4 to 5 year stint. I wasn't even watching online or anything like that. And right around 29, 30, is when I started to look at different sermons online. And that's how I found Change Church and started really feeling connected to that message. And now I'm feeling that pull to really be back in communion with God in that way. And so I ain't gonna say I had strayed away, because your girl never lost her faith and she always believed in the higher power. But I definitely think believing and having a relationship is totally different. And so now I'm super proud of and I'm enjoying the relationship that I am rebuilding with God now as an adult, as a woman. And so that's one of the things on a spiritual level that I'm enjoying about relationships in my 30s. Now, this other one is super fun. We are finally grown with the people who were grown when we were born, right? So I'm 33. And so like my older cousins were 19. Okay, let me break down the family tree. On my maternal, on my mama, child, trying to be all politically correct. On my maternal mother's side, my mama, she had, it's 6 of us grandchildren. And so the oldest is 19 years older than me. And so she is my cousin and also my godmother. And so she was an adult, technically at 19, you're an adult when I was born. And so there's a relationship, like they treat you as the baby because you are. And then finally one day it's like, oh, you grown. And then the conversation level changes. So I am enjoying, even on my dad's side of the family, my aunt, the layers of conversations and connections that we're able to have, hearing about her experiences when she was 30, some of the things that she's going through now. It's really like comforting to hear the perspective of the people who you have always revered as the adults who had it all figured out, now revere you, somebody who was literally their baby, as an adult who's figuring it out, and they're able to learn from you. And those conversations are so cool because, baby, they let their hair down. They're saying things you never heard them say before. They're sharing things, some things. One of my big cousins, shout out to Sean Treats. So she is in her 40s, on the other side of 45. And so now, I mean, she used to get me and bring me to her house as a little girl. Like I would spend weekends over there. She was the big cousin who would get all of the kids. And so now, because I'm grown, the level and intimacy of the conversation has changed in a real woman to woman type of way. And it's so fun because you get to really experience the adults who raised you on a different level, because now you're finally old enough to understand some of the life experience and be a part of some of the conversations that they're having. And I finally feel like in your 30s, you're at that age where they finally accept you to the adult table. It's like all before then, you're at the children's table, and then you turn 30 and they start to understand you as an adult and revere you as an adult. And they invite you into these spaces and into these conversations. And it is fun. Like, it's so cool to get to know the adults who raised you now that you're an adult. And I'm really enjoying those relationships and the intimacy that comes along with that. Okay, so another thing I am loving about the 30s, I am really enjoying getting to know who I am outside of the confines and the traditional norms of who the world raised me to be. And although I am very free thinking, very self led, let's keep it all the way real. There is a certain structure that we were taught to follow in order to obtain certain things, in order to be successful, and honestly, in order to be happy. And now that we realize that that was all a scam, a scheme that Todd set up to come to us with the bull. Another RHOA reference, okay? If you know, you know. But now that we realize that all of that was a scam, I'm really enjoying getting to know who I am outside of who I was told that I should be, or who the world raised and kind of like shaped and molded me to be. And so in that experience, I always say, find out who you are. Embrace that person, and the better your life will become. Let me say it again for the people in the back. When you find out who you are, the quicker you find out who you are and learn to embrace that person, the better your life will become. And I think, simply put, that's what I'm enjoying right now. It's just living on my own terms, at my own pace, and not being so frustrated with the comparison of what anybody else has going on, because I have submitted to the process of this being my own life and my own journey. And another thing that kind of coincides with this is realizing that there's still time. I don't know what it is about that 30 marker, but people treat it like it's 50, like it's 60, baby, like it's midlife. Like there is still time. And that's given me and providing me so much peace, because I used to think if I hadn't done certain things by a certain time, that I had failed. I used to think that I was behind in life, and it was because I was measuring my milestones on a timeline that wasn't even invented for me. And so having the power to now rewrite my own timeline based on what I truly want has given me a sense of peace and freedom that I can't even really explain. And so I'm grateful for that. I still, I relapse from time to time and get in my head, because I'm human. So sometimes, I definitely relapse, and I'm like, oh my God, I should be doing this. I'm not doing enough. All of the things, if I'm just being vulnerable. I'm still human. I'm still having a very human experience. But overall, at my core, I really am at peace with my own pace. And that's something that I'm very grateful for. And that brings me to my next point, which is gratitude. I am so grateful for the simplest things. I have a better understanding of what gratitude even is in my 30s. I feel like in the 20s, gratitude was more of a practice. And now in my 30s, gratitude is an essence, a way of being. And I think the difference is we focused on gratitude in the 20s being more tangible. Like, I'm grateful for the house that I have. I'm grateful for food on the table. And yes, those are very practical, tangible things that I am still very grateful for. Thank you, Jesus. Amen. Okay. But what I mean about the essence of being when it comes to gratitude is it's something that's in your core. It's more of a spirit. And so now I express an immense amount of gratitude for experiences, people who understand me, the love of God. I can feel the love of God all around me in different ways. Gratitude for different relationships, like the things that you can't touch, the things that you can't see. They say the best things in life are free. That's what I mean when I say having a different sense of gratitude. Most of the things that I'm filled up are not tangible physical things. It's the things that are live here in your head and here in your heart. And so I have just a newfound appreciation and even definition for practicing gratitude and seeing it beyond just what my eyes can see. I think for me now, gratitude is tied to my faith and the things that are unseen, and I'm able to move with a more gracious heart and spirit because of that. And that's something that was not necessarily the case in my 20s. I feel like I looked at it as more things that I can count, right? Kind of like count your blessings. Whereas now it's all of those things. I'm counting those blessings, but I'm also counting the things and the grace that God has provided me, the mercy that God has given me, because y'all know grace and mercy is different, okay? And being grateful for those things. And so the gratitude around me and in my life is something that has really enhanced how I show up and how I exist. And it's really shaped the experiences that I'm having. And that's why I'm enjoying it over here, okay? It's a vibe over here. I'm telling y'all, we don't just be deep. I mean, that was kind of deep, but it is a total vibe over here. And I think some of the characteristics and personality traits, somebody left a comment about my spirit. And I was like, thank you so much for being able to see that through the camera. But I think those things are able to be felt even through a camera, with people who don't know me, because it's really coming from within. And so I'm super grateful for that. Now, this one kind of ties into dating a little bit. And it's simply not taking myself so seriously. I took myself so seriously in my 20s to the point where I felt like it limited certain experiences that I maybe should have been a little bit more open to. And so now I'm just way more open-minded. And I know that everybody's journey is different. Maybe I didn't have the capacity or the sense of self to be that open-minded in my 20s. But now in my early 30s, I'm really secure in who I am. And so I'm very open-minded and very non-judgmental. I don't think I've ever really been a judgmental person towards other people, but baby, I will judge the hell out of me in a minute. Like literally being here judging myself. And now I told you, my friend Marley says all the time, do not apply right and wrong to life's experiences. And so I have eliminated the judgment from decisions that I've made, decisions that were positive or ones that were negative, people that I chose to entertain, people that I chose to dismiss. Some of the decisions that I've made in the past, I really judged myself about. Career choices, jobs that I didn't take, clients that I didn't take, like all of these things pile up in your head, and it was just a big tornado of judgment. And now I'm just easier on myself. I'm lighter. I do not take myself that seriously in that regard. Now, there's still a certain level of decorum and a certain way that I view myself and carry myself, but I'm having way more fun just letting things roll off my shoulder and practicing forgiveness. So being non-judgmental with myself and also forgiving myself. Sometimes I feel like I give other people so much grace and I need to transfer some of that over to me. And I feel like I view other people and try to help them have such a limitless human experience when they're in relationship with me, but I don't necessarily treat myself the same way. And so treating myself better and being better to myself is by treating myself how I treat people. And I know it's crazy because usually that's the other way around, right? It's like treat people the way you want to be treated. I realize that I need to do a better job at treating myself the way that I treat people, giving people grace, not judging people, being an open ear, having an open mind. I am that person in relationships, and I need to be that person for myself. So getting out of my own head, child, living in the real world and not up and through here has definitely made enjoying my 30s better and making sure that I'm not judging myself, because when judgment day comes, much of this probably won't even matter. And so just being a little lighter, a little easier, a little bit more of a free bird, and trying not to have control, okay? Try not to be tight, tucked like Claudia's Bob. I don't know why that scene is living rent free in my head today. But speaking of not having so much control. That is another thing that I am really enjoying in my 20s is giving the control, giving it to God, right? And really backing away. I like to control everything. I like to have a plan. I'm very structured. Like I followed the rules. I lived my life. I got all A's in elementary school, in middle school. I cried when I got my first B. Like I did all of those by the book things that we were taught to do to have this good life. And so because that type of structure worked for me in little girl world when I was a child, I thought that I could apply those same types of control to my life as an adult. But adulthood is real different, right? Once the sheltering and the protection and the guidance has ended, because now you have to go figure out your own way, I had to relinquish some of that control, right? And so just truly living by the serenity prayer. Y'all know, God grant me the courage to change the things that I can, the acceptance to not worry about the things that I can't change, and the wisdom to know the difference, right? And I think that's one of the things that I'm really making sure that I live by, because trying to control everything will have everything out of control. When I find myself spiraling, when I find myself unsure, lacking clarity, it's probably because I'm trying to control all the little chess pieces, and that may work in chess, but life is a little bit more ambiguous, right? There's not a lot of right and wrong. It's not linear. And so just living by that prayer and also taking the advice of the people who I respect. And like I told y'all, we got the quote Marley again. Stop applying right and wrong. Stop trying to give it a title to life's experiences. Sometimes things just are, and allowing myself to just be. I ain't got to control everything. Everything doesn't have to make sense. Things will be contradictory. My mind will be this way one day, and then tomorrow it will be a different. I told y'all, my mama say all the time, what good is the mind if you can't change it? And so I'm enjoying that in my 30s. It's having the courage and the freedom to change my mind and to continue to allow myself to not be forced to control everything, so that I can have a more free and limitless and just easy breezy, beautiful cover girl type life. Okay. A little bit more softer on myself. And so that's the whole judgment piece. And I'm really enjoying those aspects. So another thing is values. Unlearning what I've been taught to value and redefining my own values. And the biggest thing that sticks out to me is experiences. So much in my 20s, things had to be structured and it had to look a certain way. And if it did not align with that, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't experience it. I wouldn't try it. And I think that can be very limiting. I have no regrets, because I truly believe in my steps being divinely ordered. And so things happen for me the way that they were supposed to happen. I just don't choose to live my life in a pessimistic way. No regrets. But now in my 30s, since I have this observation and now revelation, I'm really committed to making sure that I don't make some of the same mistakes and allow myself to have more experiences. That is what I really value. And so people will tell you it's the length of a friendship that matters, for example. And I'm like, I don't really know if I value that in my 30s. I think I value the depth, the intimacy, right? What are we talking about? What experiences are we having? And it's the same in my other interpersonal relationships. I would rather experience this romance with this guy, even if it only lasted for 3 months, than to never experience it at all. And I think in my 20s, I was very focused on every experience having to be long lasting, because that's what I was taught to value. And so now just understanding what I really want and how that ties into my core values. Even when we talk about, y'all know I did a full episode that's making its way around the internet, and y'all got a whole lot to say about it. I did a full episode on being okay with not being somebody's wife or mother. That's a big step in understanding what I value. Motherhood is not something that I value right now today. It's not on my to-do list. It's not of extreme importance to me. Being somebody's wife is not of extreme importance to me. Will I change my mind? Maybe. Is it a possibility that I won't? Maybe. I'm open to whatever life has for me. I just don't want to be stuck crafting a life around it having to look a certain way based off values that are not my own. And so that's one thing that I encourage everybody to do is redefine what your own values are, because a lot of the times what we are taught to value are not really things that are reflective of who we are at our core or what we even want. So sit with it. This is my life, my salvation. So if you feel like what I'm saying don't resonate with you, baby, throw it out the window. But if anything that I'm saying makes you think differently about your own situation, I encourage you to sit with it, because for me, it's been life changing and it's caused me to enjoy the 30s more. Okay, now this one is a fun one. I feel like my intention here was to make sure that this episode was fun and lighter, because I need y'all to see all of these other sides of this human experience that I'm having, because I'm a vibe, I'm a good time. I'm popping bottles on the yacht type of friend, okay? We have been being so deep, but I know that all conversations are necessary. So in some ways, I feel like we still got a little deep, but y'all, I can't help who I am, okay? So bear with me and thank you for being here. But this one is a little fun. I am loving coming into my looks and my personal style in my 30s. Now, she's always been that girl. Okay. She's always had a sense of confidence, always liked to get dressed, always like playing in hair and makeup. But what I mean is like really coming into your looks. I don't know. It's something about the bone structure. It's something about the bone structure that's just really working for me in my 30s. It's something about figuring out what your look is, right? You spend your time playing in makeup, trying to find what clothes you like, what things work well for you, what hairstyles you really enjoy. I like the evolution of all of that and really feeling good. Like when I walk outside, I'd be like, oh my mama, on my hood, I look fly, I look good. And I truly like embody that. And it's different in your 30s. Like I feel like you're still playing around in your 20s, trying things, figuring it out. And by the time you're in your 30s, you've kind of settled into what your signature style is. And you're not pressured with different trends or the way things change to kind of divvy away from that. And so I'm embracing my hair, different makeup, the cheekbones. Okay, you see them. You see it. Getting dressed, like my wardrobe, just having a wardrobe. No matter, you could call me and say, let's go down to the trap and twerk all night long. Or you could call me and say, let's go down to the governor's mansion. He's inviting the creators to have dinner. And I got an outfit for all of that. And I like that. That's something to be proud of. And I'm enjoying having a wardrobe and coming into my looks in my 30s. And the last thing that I am really enjoying about these here 30s is embracing the fact that nothing lasts forever. And I know that might sound a little dark, but hear me out. One day we're going to leave here. We're going to leave this place. The time that we have here is limited. Nobody gets out alive. And so embracing that nothing lasts forever literally also helps me enjoy my 30s, because I also use it metaphorically. So no matter what you're going through, I am currently in a storm. I am in a very tough season of my life, but I believe with every part of my being that this won't last forever. No matter what job you're working, no matter who you're dating, nothing lasts forever. Even if you're married to somebody, at some point, what happens? Death will do you part. And so it won't last forever. And in an interesting way, it helps me find peace with everything that I'm going through. And to tell y'all a little bit of my business, ciao, why I have no pain lasts forever tattooed on my hip. Oh, it's one of them tattoos where it's like, now girl, what you go doing that for? But no regrets. But even the pain, no matter what you're going through, everything comes and goes. No storm is here to stay, and nothing lasts forever. So it allows you to appreciate every moment and everything that you're experiencing, because one day you won't have it anymore. And that is the biggest thing that I'm enjoying, is appreciating the moments, the experiences, the people, the good times, the bad times, all of that, because none of it is going to last forever. So in enjoying what we have right now, which is the present, right? The present is the most precious thing we have. That's why it's a gift. They call it a present. So that is what I'm going to close out this conversation on. I hope that you guys enjoyed all of the things that I'm enjoying in my 20s. So now we are going to get into beneath the comments. So this is the part of the show where you guys get to talk back to me and have these conversations. I enjoy reading your comments. I enjoy connecting with you all. I really want to be intentional about building community around the pod, because I don't want this to be a space where you guys just come and hear me yap about what I'm going through. I want us to have intentional meetups and Zoom calls. Like, I want to actually be able to be in community with you. And so I want you to not only leave comments, but I want you to make sure that you're joining my other communities and other ways where I can lay eyes on you and see who you are. We got a lot of fun things coming, some in-person events, some trips and retreats, and a lot of fun things going on. And so I would love to continue to get to know y'all even beyond the comment section. So for now, let's go beneath the comments, okay? So this comment comes from Apple Podcasts. First of all, thank y'all so much for commenting, liking, and reviewing over on Apple Podcasts, because the reviews over there are struggling. Okay. So if you find it in your heart to leave a review, please do help me get the reviews up over there. It helps people discover the podcast. So that's your way. If anything that I said helped you, that's your way of making sure that these conversations can help somebody else by leaving a review. So over on Apple Podcasts, C. Tiana says, I absolutely love this podcast. The topics are relatable. Kayla is relatable. I feel seen and heard whenever I listen to her. And child, and drop the phone. I chose this comment as one to highlight because I think you guys are really good at articulating the vision that I have for this space right back to me. So for her to say, I feel seen and heard whenever I listen to her, that is one of my biggest prayers, because I feel like it's so missing in our real life relationships. And so my goal is for you to listen to something that I'm saying, feel seen and feel heard, but also do the work to implement that in your real life, because that's also something that I'm enjoying about the 30s. I really do feel seen and heard because of the way that I show up, because of the sense of self that I have. I feel like I am attracting really good relationships where people see me and they feel me. And so I'm happy that this is a space where you can feel seen and heard. And I hope that you are doing the work to make sure that these conversations don't just stop here, and you're implementing some of this stuff in your real life, because I always say God gives us exactly what we need to survive out in the real world, and what we need is each other. So in some way, I hope these conversations are making your real life better. Okay. So thank you for sharing over on Apple Podcast, child, because we need it. Okay. All right. Another one. This was a YouTube comment. Just S7605. They say, I pray the internet doesn't threaten your vulnerability. You're the first person I've listened to on YouTube that's genuine, transparent, and relatable. Thank you so much. And thank you for the prayers. And I like how you said you pray the internet doesn't threaten my vulnerability, because y'all know people don't always have the nicest things to say. And we have seen where people have been very vulnerable. A couple of my favorite creators have been very vulnerable online and have changed the nature of their content because of the response that they've gotten. But I'll say what I said to this person, to you guys. I feel like I'm on assignment. And so I am committed to being obedient and not letting the naysayers get to me. Vulnerability, we talked about earlier in the pod. That was one of the first things we talked about in this episode. And so I truly believe it's a part of my superpower. And so I am committed to stepping up to the plate and being vulnerable in my real life and online, because I feel like it is a way for me to fully be myself. And so the moment that I stop being vulnerable, I'm no longer being myself, and I can't afford to not be me. I mean, you see the material, you see what she's given. So thank you so much for your prayers. Genuinely, truly, I really appreciate all that are sending positive messages and praying, because it's not the easiest thing to show up to the seed and be vulnerable in this way to the whole WWs and the .coms. And so I really appreciate the prayers. And then the last one, you guys know I like to ask you in the comments all the time, what are you enjoying the most about life right now? Because no matter what's going on, there's always something to be grateful for. There's always something to enjoy. And we just did a whole episode on what I'm enjoying. So I want to hear from you guys. But the last one, she says, let's see. Her name is uh, Tasha D. Evans, 4897. And she says, I'm enjoying church, a few drinks, and a little social time and being single. How about you? And I responded to her and I said, girl, same, exactly. That is definitely a summary of what I'm enjoying in life right now. I'm really enjoying church and my spiritual relationship, a couple of drinks, hanging out with friends, being single, all of the things. Like I'm enjoying exactly where I am right here, right now in life. And it feels good to be comfortable with that. So thank you so much for sharing that comment. Listen, I would like for us to keep the conversation going, y'all. So let me know down in the comments, what are your takeaways from this episode, but also what are you enjoying in life right now? I know that we are a multi-generational experience. I always say Beneath the Seams is my love letter to millennials who are just trying to figure it out. But I understand that these conversations really resonate with the hearts and minds of people from all generations. I've had Gen Z checking in. Shout out to Gen Z. I've had elderly millennials or geriatric millennials, as you guys have said. And I've had women 50, 55, even 60, leave comments and talk about how they are enjoying this experience as well. So we don't exclude nobody. If it resonated with you, then it's for you, boo. Okay. You are my people. And so let me know. This was everything that I'm enjoying about being in my 30s. But if you ain't in your 30s, I want you to leave what you're enjoying about the decade that you're in. So if you're in your 20s, what are you enjoying? Or what are some questions you have looking forward to 30 if you're in your 20s? And if you're in your 40s, baby, what we got to look forward to? Forward to 40, okay? What is given? Me and one of my friends, my line sister, we have this saying, like, it's going to get better at 40. So hashtag forward to 40. If you are already there, reach back and let the girls know what is to come and give us some advice. Like, how can we continue to enjoy our 30s? What should we be doing more of, less of? Let's just keep the conversation going down in the comments. No matter what generation you belong to, we can all be of value and be in community with each other. All right. So I'm going to be peeping. I'm going to be in these comments and looking for y'all responses. All right, y'all. That will do it for today's episode of Beneath the Seams. Listen, no matter where you are in your journey of enjoying life, not enjoying life, going through a tough season, figuring it out, praying about it, crying about it, whatever it is, I want you to just let yourself be. And my prayer for you, my wish for you is that you simply find peace in the process of just figuring it out. See you guys next time. Bye.